Right, hey everyone, today this is Louise from Butterfly Dolphin Crochet, and today I'm going to show you how to make that jumper you've just seen. So, what you'll need is the chosen yarn. You can use any yarn you want. I will show you how to size it to yourself as we go along. But for this project, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using Wool-Ease Quick and Thick, or Thick and Quick should I say. It's a Lion brand yarn. It's a size 6 super bulky yarn. The hook size it requires is a 9mm, which is what I am actually going to be using. Now each skein of yarn is 106 yards, which is 97 meters. You're going to need at least seven balls for this project. For the size that I'm doing. Less if you're doing a smaller size, more if you're doing a bigger size. This is a 77% acrylic, 20% wool and 3% viscose. It's made in Turkey and the colour I've got is called Raisin. So once you've got your yarn, your hook, you'll also need a tape measure and a pair of scissors. So once you've got all them together, I'll meet back up with you. Right, so once you've got everything together and you're ready to go, I'm going to start with what's called a cinch circle or a magic ring. Now this is mainly because of the amount of stitches and the size of yarn that I'm using. But if you don't know how to do them and you struggle with my explanation, a chain of 6 will help us. You can do a chain of 6 and slip stitch into the first stitch to make a circle. Either way, it's up to what you fancy. So how I'm going to do my cinch circle is I wrap round my hand like that, cross over like that, and then I'll hook my my hook in behind and loop that up like I'm just going to do a chain, and then hold the yarn and hook in the other hand like I am, pull that through like that, and then chain 1 to secure it. And that's what your cinch circle looks like. And now, because this is the only row in which 3 chains, so if we'll class this a treble. So because we've already got 1 on the base, we just need to chain 2 more. And that will class as your first treble. And that's the only time in which a treble will be classed as 3 chains will be classed as a treble throughout the pattern. And it's the only time we'll use that many chains at once. So now what we need to do is create 4 sides, because that's roughly what we're doing. We're doing 4. So you'll have 2 sides bigger than the other 2 sides. So I'm going to start off with one of the smaller sides. So we've already got this as the first treble. So we need to do 2 more trebles into this space before our corner. So you do that by yarning over, going into the circle, pulling up a loop like that, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2, and then we'll do that one more time like so. So in theory you should have a chain 3 and 2 trebles, so that will class as your first shell. Now we'll need to do the first corner, so we do that by chaining 2 and literally turn your work if you can. Now we're going to be working on one of the bigger, longer sides, so we need to put in, for the next row to work out, we need to have an odd number on the in these clusters on every row, or every shell that you go around. So this one, because it's going to be, so on this side, because this is going to be the bigger side, we need to put 5. So we put 5 trebles into this space by just doing 5 trebles. So that's 1, 2. Nice juggle a little bit, starting these off with this thick, yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 2 sides done. So now we just need to chain 2 for the second corner. And then we just need to repeat what we did with the first shell, which is 3, to make this smaller side. So you do 3 trebles. Like so. 1 more. 2 more. That's 1 done. And now we're at the third corner, so chain 2. And now we're at the second big side, so you need to chain 2, which I've just done, and then do 5 more trebles into this space. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I also then chain 2 to make to finish off the last corner. And so this is what it should look like if you've done it by cinch circle. If you've done it by chain space, the circle might be smaller. So if you've used a cinch circle, what I'll then do is literally pull your tail and cinch the circle hole. Smaller, as tight as you can. Don't worry about it not being too tight. There will be a bit of a hole there, mainly because of the amount of stitches in the yarn that I'm using. So now what we need to do is find the top of the chain 3 space, the chain 3 even, and slip stitch into the top of it, like so. And that is the end of your first row. Now from the size that I'm doing, I'll be repeating the next row to the point that I have 10 rounds, and then I will tie off my yarn to make, and then do one more row, but I'll get to that in a minute. So to start row 2, which is the repeat row for every round until you get to the desired length or size. So what we need to do now is chain 1, yarn over twice to do a double treble. And we're going to do a double treble now, front post. Now this is why we needed an odd number. Just zoom in a bit, because your front, when you come out of the corner, like here, we're starting out of the corner space. The stitch, your first stitch and your last stitch will always be a front post double treble crochet, and you will always alternate them between a double treble front post, a treble, a double treble front post. You will always alternate that until you get to the corners, and your corners will always be like the same. So, for this side of the square, we're at the first stitch, so we need to do a double treble. So you yarn over twice, go round the post like that. And when you're doing front post, so got your post on the front of your hook, you yarn over, pull through. So you got, in theory, you'll have 4 loops on your hook. You now need to yarn over and pull through the first 2. Yarn over, pull through the second 2. Yarn over, pull through the last 2. So that's your first one. And then your next one will be a treble. Just a normal treble into the top normal spot on top of the treble from the row below. So your next one now is going to be a front post double treble. So you yarn over twice, go around the post of the stitch, yarn over, pull back through, 4 loops from your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2, yarn over, pull through the last. So that's what the smaller side will look like after round 1. Now, because we're already at the corner space, we need to put a treble, another one, so you have 2 trebles in a row there. Chain 2, yarn over, and do 2 more trebles into that space, like so. So now, like on this one, we have to start with the double treble front post, and we end with a double treble front post. So that means we'll have 3 stitches in the middle. And like I said, also we alternate it, the double treble front posts with trebles. So in other words, we're going to be going double treble front post, treble, double treble front post, treble, double treble front post across this one until we get to the corner space. So we do that by yarning over twice, putting the post of your stitch on the front of your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2, and then the last 2. The next stitch gets a treble. The next stitch gets another double treble front post. Like so. The next one is a treble. And your last one of the row should be your double treble front post. And then you're at your corner space, and every corner will get exactly the same. 2 trebles, chain 2, 2 more trebles. And then we're now at the smaller side. So your smaller sides get, and because every side will start with a double treble front post and ends with a double treble front post, and then because we've only got 1 stitch in the middle, that will be your treble. So we start off with a double treble front post, like so. Treble, chain 2, 2 more trebles into that space, and then we need to repeat what we did here on this one. So start with your double treble, and then double triple, then a treble, then do your double treble, and then you're at your corner space. Which is 2 trebles, chain 2, and 2 more trebles. And then you're at the back at your beginning point. So you should have 4 corners, and then once you've back at your beginning, you can slip stitch into the top of the first double treble front post, like so. So what you should have is on your sides you should have 3 double treble front post, and on your top and your bottom you'll have your 2. And every row you will grow by 16 more stitches every row. So you'll need to repeat the row that we've just done until you've got 10 full rows starting from your first round. And once you've got to that, I'll meet back up with you. Right, so once you've got your piece done, now if you are following along with me, I've done 10 rows of going around doing this pattern. Now, to actually get it measured to yourself, you need to measure yourself around your chest area, and your panels should, in theory, measure half of what it... Oh, sorry. Stretch it out a bit. Should measure about half of what that chest size should be. So you'll measure that way in inches or centimetres, or however you've measured yourself. You'll just measure yourself around your chest, all the way around your back as well, and half that size, and you'll do your squared to that size. Now don't worry if it's just an inch smaller, because we are going to do another round of double crochet. So all you're doing is doing this pattern, the square pattern, until you get your square, or 2 squares, because you'll have to make two squares the same size. Now I've done it to, for my particular size, I've done it to about 20 inches. Just over, I think, 20 inches and a quarter. Now, what we need to do, because I'm going to go around the whole entire project with just double crochet, treble crochet even, but I would like to leave a, as you can see on my other one, because I've already made my first panel, but I'm going to leave an opening here for my neck, and then we're going to go around the neck hole and maybe do a collar or something similar to that. So no matter what size, how big, I know that I've measured a gap about 10 inches. So So I have crocheted about 6 inches on these sides, and I've left about 10 inches in the middle. So I've measured about, I've probably given myself a bigger gap hole than I know and I need. So you can go in a little bit, but I wouldn't go in too far. So I probably might go in an extra 2 stitches on either side. But what you can do is measure around your neck and then half that size, and then leave a gap equivalent to that with a little bit of room on either side. So that's how you measure that. So if you're following along with me and you wanted to do it exactly the same as me, I'll show you how I measured this. Well, I know how I measured it. And I'll show you how I worked it out. So I know from that one that I need 10. I would like 10 inches, and I know that I've got, well, 10 inches equals about 20 stitches for me. So I need to leave a gap of, no, it's 21 stitches for me, I think. So I need to leave a gap of 21 stitches on here. So I went along and counted all my stitches along. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2, 23, 7. And I've got 39, which is exactly how many I had on my last one. So what I'm going to do then is find what the middle stitch is, which should be here. That's the 21st stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 1 second. Right, sorry about that. Yeah, so I had one too many stitches on that side. So what I did was I worked out 39 stitches, took one off to make an even number of 38, and 38 equals 19 stitches this side. So 19 stitches this side, so this one equals the middle stitch. So what we then need to do is count 10 stitches that way and 10 stitches that way from the next one to there. So you should have 9 stitches on either side frame. And as you can see, all I'm doing is marking it off with a stitch marker. Well, if you have been following the pattern along with me, you'll notice here you've got this row of single crochets. So now we don't count that as a stitch because that's part of this double treble here. So ignore that when you do count. Right, so I'm all sorted there. So once you've done that, I'm going to do is do the row double crochet, treble crochet. Even keep forgetting I'm using UK terms. So what I'm going to do is get your yarn, do a slip knot, and then what I am actually going to do, one second, just check something. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the stitch next to that, like so. So all I'm going to do is slip stitch into it. So I've joined my yarn. Just pull that bit out. You can now take this clip out if you want, or you can leave it in and take them out at the end. It's up to you. So once you've got your yarn in, chain one, and then do a treble back into that space. And then all you're going to do now is do a treble in every stitch until you get to your corner space. Like so. Because I'm nearly there, I'll go to the end. So once you do get to your chain 2 space from your previous row, you're just going to do exactly the same as you've been doing on the rows before. 2 trebles, chain 2, oh, I don't want to, 2 trebles, chain 2, and 2 more trebles into that space. Like so. And then you'll just flip your work and work along this side, putting 1 treble crochet in every stitch, and then exactly the same as what you've just done here and this corner, in this corner, and you will repeat that all the way around until you get to your last corner space, and I'll meet back up with you. Right, so I've actually gone all the way around. So you should have got to this corner space, and all you need to do was 2 trebles, a chain 2, 2 more trebles, and then work every treble into every single stitch up until your stitch marker. So you should have 11 treble crochets before you chain 2 space on that side, and 11 on that side. So you should have the same amount. Now what you'll need to go do now is do 2 pieces exactly the same. Now before you put the row of treble crochets that we've just put on, you need to be 2 inches smaller on the main bit than your actual chest size. It will stretch a bit, so don't worry too much about it not stretching or being a little bit smaller, because this material will stretch out mainly because of the post stitches. So you will have some room. Now bearing in mind, it will, depending on how we decide to stitch it up, it will either give it more or take a little bit off. So once you've gone and got your 2 panels identically the same, I'll meet back up with you. Right, so once you've done, let's get that up. Once you've done both sides, let's bring that up a bit. Once you've done both sides, once you've done both sides and you've done it with the row of trebles going around the outside, what you then need to do is put one panel face up on the surface, and then you put the other panel face down, so that the right sides of your work are facing each other, because then you're going to be sewing them together on the inside, so no one's going to see the seams too much, the tails and the seams that much. I've already done one side, and I decided to sew them together instead of crochet. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on this bit first. That'll be your shoulder area. Now I have tried it on, and that's why I've done one side just to measure it, so I know. So what we're going to do is literally sew together the 11 stitches that you've got at the top. So what I'm going to do, and I'm also going to go into the first stitch of the chain 2 space on both sides here, just to give it a bit more structure at the top. Just taking these out. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to be sewing them together. So just cut a bit of yarn off your ball that you have, and throw it through your needle or whatever you're using. You can also crochet it together if you feel that's what you prefer. I just tend to sew everything together when I'm making tops. I don't know why. So I'm going to work from this way. Doesn't matter which way you work, just as long as all you need to do is, I'm going to go into the first chain of the chain 2 space, but make sure you get through the gap. This is one of the reasons why I decided to sew together, and then get the same one on the other side and just pull through. Make sure, if you're doing it like me, you leave a little bit of a tail on that side to tighten it, and then just take your time by going. I'm just doing back and forth. I'm not doing whip, I'm just going back and forth. So I'm just going to the next chain or stitch there, like so, and then find the next one on the other side, to make sure the stitches line up. And then just go back and forth. Like so. This is one of the reasons why I like these needles, especially with this yarn. Just take your time, don't need to rush this bit. Because you need to make sure you get every stitch. And I've got to make sure they line up as well. Like so, and then I'm just going to go into this side here. No, actually I want to go just back, and then I'll just go back a few stitches like that. And once I've gone far enough back, I'll then feed this down to about there, and hide the tail, and then pull it back that way. Like so, and then cut that little bit off. And then I'll hide this tail and the tail at the other end. I'll just do what I've just done here with that tail and go into the next stitch. Like so, go into the next one if you can. So, and then I'm going to do the same, go down to about here and go along a few stitches like so, and then just snip off whatever's left, and then I'm going to do the same with this one. So, and then pick up a few stitches at the bottom, like that, and then, so then that is that shoulder bit done. Now, what we need to do is create the armhole. Now, I have already done the other side. So I already know that about 8 inches down is going to be a big enough gap for me. Because I don't like my arm sleeves too tight. So all you need to do is measure. If you're doing the same size as me, you just follow along. I'll tell you how many stitches to skip in a minute. But if you wanted a smaller gap, because you've got smaller arms, or you just want a bigger gap, all you need to do is measure you can either measure around your arm or go and measure at the top that you have, that you're designing it similar to, and measure the size of that. So I know I wanted 8 inches, so what I'll need to do is go to where the chain 2 space is, here at the top, and measure 8 inches down from the top of there. So I know it'll be about here. But because I've already done my other side, I want this side to match that side. I know I need to skip 15 trebles from the chain 2 space. So 1, 2, 3, 15. So that's 15 on that side. You then need to make sure you do exactly the same on the other side to make it line up. So you now need to count 15 from the same spot on this side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I always then double count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then I'll bring the other side over. Double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yep, and that's the 15th one there. And click it in. Right, so that's your armhole measured. Now what we need to do is sew that side together. So again, you need to make sure you got a long enough strand for that to one side. Feed your yarn up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the 16th stitch down. So that's, bearing in mind we already know where the 15th one is. So if you just go into the 16th one, and like we did at the top, we're going to sew it together and pull your strand through. Make sure you have a long enough tail at that side, and then we're just going to go back and forth. Make sure you line up the stitches, the same stitches on either side. And we are going about through both loops. I decided we are going through, and then just making sure we're taking our time and lining them up. Hate having to yeah. So you just go back and forth like this. So it's a similar process to how we did tie the top up. We've just missed 15 stitches on each side there for your arm space. If you wanted a bit more, just skip a few more stitches, because we will be adding a few more rows at the end just to tidy up the edges. I'll probably be showing you the arms next before I decided that, because I don't know how I'm going to tidy the edges up at the top and bottom. It all depends on how much yarn we've got left. And I'm also planning to do about a quarter to half a sleeve. So I'm not going to have long sleeves because I don't like long sleeves. So I'll meet back up with you when you get to the bottom. Right, so I've made it down to the last stitch. I'm just going to go into the last stitch. I'm not going to go into the chain space like I did at the top for the shoulder bit. I'm just going to go back in and go a few more rows up, loop back up kind of thing to tighten it a bit. Mainly because I'm going to leave a bit of a split down here. You don't have to, you can go all the way down if you want. I've decided not to. So once you've got yourself this high enough to hide your tail, just go ahead and hide your tail at this end. think one more for me will be better. There we go. Okay, when you get tangled there. So I'm just going to go down to the row below and pick up a few strands, go to the corner bit kind of like that. And then go back up, loop back up kind of thing. No, but that's that tail hidden. And then go do the same at the other top, and I'll meet back up here. And we'll talk about sleeves. Oh yeah, and don't forget to take your stitch marker out. And I'll meet back up here when I start the sleeves. Right, so once you've got your sides sewed up, I'm going to do the sleeves. As you can probably already tell, I've done one sleeve already. Now, I'm only doing just over a quarter length sleeves, mainly because I don't like long sleeves. But if you want to do longer sleeves, you can. All I suggest is that every so many rows, decrease it by spreading them out. I have got a decrease row in this. It is the last row, so I've done 5 rows for a sleeve. 4 rows would be the same, a treble crochet in every stitch pretty much. And you're just repeating that. And then in the last row I did decreases. But I'll explain that in a minute. So once you have got and both arms will be exactly the same. So let's get on with it, and I'll show you how to do the sleeve. So what I actually did was I started in the stitches near my armpit, just to keep the seams together, so to speak. Ooh. That's supposed to be big like that. So I'll get my yarn, and I started with a slip knot. And what I did was the chain in which the first chain in which you use as the stitch that you started sewing with, I'm going to go into there and slip stitch. Like so. And chain 1. Now that chain 1 does not count as anything. So I'm going to go back into that stitch and do a treble. Like so. And now I'm just going to do 1 treble in every stitch. As you can probably, oh gee, going too fast there. As you can probably tell, I'm hiding my tail as I go along, because then it means I'm not having to turn it inside out all the time just to hide my tail, because it is quite a big project. So I'm doing one treble into every, I don't know if you can see that, stitch, until I get to the chain 2 space at the top, and then I'll meet back up with you and I'll show you what to do. Right, so I've just done my last treble into the treble from the previous row, and what I'm going to do now is put, I put 2 trebles, yeah, 2 trebles into the chain 2 space, like so. And then I put a treble into the chain, the seam of the the seam at the top, just to strengthen that bit a bit more. And then put 2 more trebles into the next chain 2 space, and then all I need to do is match what I did on this side, on this side onto this side. So that's just 1 treble into every stitch until you get to the last one where you sewed in on the other side, and I'll meet back up with you there. Right, so once you've done your 4 rows of trebles, that's including your first row that we did together, all you need to do now is chain 1, and then what we're going to do is do some decreases. So we're going to do a decrease over the first 2 treble crochets. We do that by yarning over and going in and doing the first half of a treble, but don't finish it. Then yarn over, go back into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up, and do half of that. So you should have 2 half trebles, and then you yarn over and pull through the remaining 3 loops. So you've then, in theory, taken 2 stitches and turned them into 1. And now we need to put a treble crochet into the next 6. And we'll repeat that again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then we'll do the 2 together over the next 2 stitches. So yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull back through, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, go through to the next stitch, yarn over, pull back through, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 3. So you're just going to repeat that by doing a 2 together and then 6 trebles all the way around. And I'll meet back up with you when you have 4 stitches left, and I'll explain what to do next. So once you have got to the last 4 stitches, all you then need to do is put 1 treble into each of them, and then slip stitch, and then slip stitch into the beginning and then tie off. And that should be the end of your arms. Sleeves. So now, once you've done that, the next thing I'm going to do the next thing I'm going to do is my collar. I'm going to do 2 rows of double crochet around it. It's going to be relatively easy, mainly because we've already got most of our stitches with chains in them. So what I'm going to do is, I've already picked which side I want as my back, and that's the one that's facing me at the moment. So what we need to do now is, once you have chosen the back, which one you like the most and prefer the most, keep that at the front. So what we're going to do now is you can either slip stitch in the corner down here, or do what I'm going to do and slip stitch into the chain before the slip stitch where we finish the square. So that I can hide at this tail. So slip chain one, and then I'm going to go back into that same stitch and do a double crochet. And then I'm going to do a double crochet in every single stitch until I get to this spot here. So it's just one double crochet into every stitch. Try and hide my tails as I go, so I'm not having to worry about that later on. See, I'm coming up to the corner here. Now in theory what they tend to say is that for every, I think I might even go into that corner space like that. So once you got into that chain, I'm also then going to do two singles, doubles even, to every treble, like so. So once I've done my second one, like that, just turning my work, it's quite big. So once I've done the second one, I should be, in theory, in line with where I sewed up. So I'm going to put one into there as well, just to try and keep it all strengthened together. And then one and two into the treble from the previous row. And then you should be, in theory, at the stitch where that treble's coming out with, and then just put one double into that, and then you're back at the, one second, I'm just doing my work. Oh, it's getting a bit big now. So now you should be where, no, so now you can just put one treble into every stitch and then just repeat what we've done around this corner, and I'll meet back up with you once we get to our starting point.